still thinking about texting and driving? Maybe you should think twice, because you could end up riding in one of these.
Education Today starts now.
Welcome to Education Today. I'm Chris Garatano, Armstrong School District's multimedia technician. Today we are bringing to you viewers at home an important topic that every teen driver and their parents are going to want to listen to. The topic, teen driving and driving safety. Last year we took some video footage of a special hands-on assembly that was done at Elderton High School right before the prom took place. The assembly divided students up into several groups and simulated how difficult it is to text and drive or walk impaired, use regular motor skills while impaired, and a one-on-one discussion with a local police officer. Later, during our show, we will show some of that footage to you viewers at home, which includes the acts the students did and some students' reactions to what they experienced. But first, we have with us a special guest from the Indiana University of Pennsylvania to discuss this topic. Welcome to Education Today, and could you please introduce yourself for our viewers at home?
Thank you. My name is Sandy Toy, and I'm with the Indiana Regional Highway Safety Project. That is a federally funded grant through PennDOT and contracted with the Highway Safety Center at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And it is my job to help increase awareness about highway safety issues and seatbelt use rates through education, enforcement, and public information. So thank you for having me on today.
That's not a problem. I appreciate you coming down and joining us.
Yes.
Now, I guess I kind of described a little bit what your role was in your job with the university. Driving is something a lot of people take for granted, especially younger drivers. You know,
Yes.
They're very excited to just get out on the road when they get that little piece of plastic in their hands. But how should parents prepare themselves and their kids for the beginning to drive?
Well, first and foremost, they should prepare themselves by knowing that a high majority of new drivers have a crash within 6 months of getting their license, so that what they need to keep in the back of their minds at all times is that your new driver is not a good driver yet. Give them about 5 or 6 years of driving experience and they will become a much better driver. Also, check with your insurance company to find out how adding them to your policy is going to affect your rates. That's very, very important. Also included in that is the type of vehicle that they're going to be driving. Many parents want to, they try to assume that their child will indeed have a wreck, so they don't want to give them a brand new car. Right. What we want to do is encourage them to make sure that the vehicle that their teen will be using is equipped with the most modern safety equipment and that their teen knows how to use that equipment. The other thing is get help. Get help from professionals. Enroll your teen in a driver education program through the school. We don't, as parents, we assist in teaching our children how to read, but schools are there to help with that full education. As parents, what we don't want to see happen is passing along of bad driving habits from one generation to the next. And even though the parent may be a very good driver, they may not be the most patient person in the world to help with that process. I will say that they can sign up their child through their local school district. Also, Aaron provides an online driver education service. And yes, that can cost money, but is very, very much worth the investment.
Right. Now, I know when I was in high school, my dad pretty much required me to take driver safety courses. I think that it helped a lot. I have always told people that in my experience driving, I guess I'm 27, so I've been driving for, 11 years almost. And even now, there are accidents that I know for a fact I've avoided because of things that I learned in those courses. And that could sound like cliche or cheesy or whatever, but it's the truth. And they're just things that you don't necessarily, I might not have thought about otherwise going through those courses. And something, too, that maybe not everyone's aware of, and I'm not going to speak for all insurance companies, but I know there are several insurance companies that will offer some kind of safe driving discount is a big thing out there now.
That's correct.
And I think that there was some kind of initial discount when I first got my license with my parents' insurance because I took a safety course ahead of time. So those are all important things to keep in mind too when you're deciding whether or not you want them to do it. And there's plenty of services in the area. So now, what is the correct? You talked about the safety equipment, modern equipment in cars, and obviously that has changed drastically from even when I was driving. When I think the first car I drove didn't even have an airbag in it, and now that's standard. In fact, you'd be hard pressed to find one that doesn't have several airbags in it. So, can we talk a little bit about the correct way to use the safety equipment, and if there are any things specifically that you can think of that new drivers should be aware of with the safety equipment? Absolutely.
Seat belts. The first and foremost best protection about anybody out there on the road. They need to go across the strongest parts of the body. They're designed to go over the shoulder, chest, and hips, never behind the arm or behind the back. That can cause serious or even fatal injuries. Airbags, the person inside the vehicle should be sitting at least 10 to 12 inches away from the ones in the front seat. The ones on the side don't come out nearly as fast, nor with the, they're not as big as those airbags are. But again, you want to make sure that there is the distance between, so that you allow the room for the airbag to deploy. Head restraints, a lot of people don't even think about those as a type of occupant protection device, but they are. They provide protection to the back of the head, and they should be adjusted to where the middle of the back of the head is. And recognizing that there are going to be some people that's never going to happen because they're too tall. Right. For the most part, most people can adjust those correctly to achieve the maximum protection. Right.
And I know one thing I didn't understand really initially. Now I understand a lot better. A couple years ago, but a lot of cars will have the devices for the seat belts that are built into the side of the car there, where the seat belt, where it comes out of the side of your car, actually can adjust up and down.
Yes.
And that again is something to make sure that the seat belt's properly coming across your body. I have a friend of mine did not when she first started driving. Very, very short, and her seatbelt didn't adjust. As a result, it almost came across her neck, which can be just as dangerous as a lot of other things.
To avoid the seatbelt going across the person's neck, because that can be dangerous as well. You're right, the height adjuster is a quick and easy means. If the person still is a little bit too short for that to even work, what they can do is adjust themselves just a little bit closer to the buckle. Just instead of being here, they can move ever so slightly closer to the buckle, and that'll change the angle across the neck. If they're driving, it won't be as though you're driving like this. Right. It's just a little bit of a shift. And I do recommend that anybody who has a problem with the vehicle that they're in, if they're in the market to buy a new vehicle, get in and try it out to see if this is something. If parents are going to buy whether it's used or new vehicle for their child to drive, have them get in. Make sure that that vehicle is suitable for the child, for their teenager, to be able to fit correctly.
Sure. And that is something that the first step, and when we first got into the cars with driver's education, was we had to go around, inspect the entire car, and then get in, check all your mirrors, make sure your belt's coming across correctly. And there's plenty of safety features out there to adjust. So when you do go look for something for them to drive, make sure you're checking for that, as she said. And there's even things that I've noticed, and I always joke with my mom that she should have gotten a car like this because she's kind of short, but where the mechanism with the gas and brake pedals can adjust either forward or backwards, which helps for both taller and shorter drivers, because your arms might not be real long or whatever, and it really helps adjust. And it's also about being comfortable in the car you're driving in.
Yes.
So, now programs, I was going to ask if there are programs that schools or the state offer to help prepare new drivers. Part of that, again, is driver's education, of course.
That's true. And also there are many websites that parents can go to get information about safe driving, parents and teens. PennDOT has a website that talks about new driver helps. They also put out, you can find them, a booklet that can be found at the driver licensing centers as well as online. Insurance companies, many insurance companies have their own websites with a section specific to teen driving. AAA has a section, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, to name a few, and many of them have sites that have interactive activities to help the teens learn more about safe driving practices.
Okay, so we'll get maybe some of those resources, and look forward towards the end of our show. Maybe we can get some of those listed out for you. Now, what is the leading factor in the cause of crashes among newer and young drivers?
Biggest factor is inexperience. They just are not equipped yet to maneuver in difficult situations. They don't have that experience. They may have received some training in evasive maneuvers, skid control, but they still don't have that type of practice, how to manage around a curve without speed is important there. Many of them drive too fast. Non-use of seatbelt contributes to injuries and fatalities. So, I mean, just to sum it up, inexperience.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that in mind, what is the leading factor in the causes of crashes overall?
Crashes fall into three major categories: the causation factors, road conditions, vehicle conditions, and human error. And of course, human error includes aggressive driving, impaired driving, lack of seatbelts, and that accounts for about 85% of all crashes. The other two that obviously account for about 15 to 20%. Mm-hmm. Most are preventable.
Right. Now, obviously, you mentioned with the drivers, both young and new drivers, and all drivers overall, distractions are a big issue. When we show this video that we're going to show from our event at Elderton last spring, a lot of that had to do with distractions while driving of all different sorts, and that was specifically brought on because of the prom coming up and trying to educate teen drivers. When prom comes into play, a lot of different factors go in there, and even prom itself may be a distraction. You're out, it's maybe the first beginning of the year with it being nicer out, you get maybe your parents' nicer car to drive your date around, so we're going to talk about some of that here after our break. But we are going to take a short break now. We'll be right back with Miss Sandra Toy, as she is going to talk with us more about teen driving safety and newer driving safety. Stay with us here on Armstrong School District's Education Today.
Before I came to IUP, I had no idea what college would be like, or what role I would play, or where I'd be in the future. But when I came to IUP, everything changed. I met people who really made me feel like I belonged. I had great classes at a great nationally ranked university. Hi, my name is Megan Miller. I'm a fine arts major, and this is my university.
We're back with Armstrong School District's Education Today. Today we are talking about driving safety, more specifically for teens and new drivers. With us is Sandra Toy of IUP. Now, wearing a seatbelt is important for new drivers. How does a seatbelt help?
There are 5 different ways that a seatbelt can help if worn properly. It helps with what we call ride down. In a crash, there are 3 different kinds of collisions: the vehicle crash, the human crash, and the internal organ collisions. With ride down, what that does is help the passenger become a part of the vehicle. So instead of 2 separate crashes or collisions occurring within that crash, there are more or less kind of one. It's not that the impact is going to be any less severe. It's just being a part of the vehicle will help with the way that the passenger is moving in that crash. If the car comes to a sudden stop at 30 miles per hour, instead of it stopping and then the human coming along and stopping, it's coming along and stopping at about the same time as the crash. It diminishes the effects slightly. Like I said, it's not going to take away any of the events that can happen after that, but it can help with becoming a part of the vehicle to ride down. It also, they also spread the crash forces among the strongest parts of the body, and forces force is equal to weight times speed, and that's very, very simply put for general purposes. So if we have a 50-pound person, I'm just using 50 pounds of mass times, say, even 10 miles per hour, that is 500 pounds of force. So if the person wants to figure out what's going to happen with them, how many pounds of force that are going to be in play with them, just take their weight. Just take your weight, multiply it by 10, and that's the amount of force that's involved in a single object crash. Now, if there are two or more two or more vehicles involved in the crash, then you double that those crash forces. So what that does, with all of that force in place, that takes instead of being centered in mass going forward, that takes it and spreads it across the stronger parts of the body. It also helps keep you in place to maximize your ability to control the vehicle in a crash, because you're going to get bumped and knocked around. That helps keep you behind the steering wheel or in the passenger seat so that you're not knocking into the driver. And that said, it helps you it helps to keep you from hitting into other people, especially those in the back seat. Some people think that just because they're in the back seat, they're okay, they've got that front seat in front of them. Not necessarily so, because if they're hit from behind, they could go through the back. They're also very much able to go through the front window or hit into the front seat passengers. And that being said, it also helps keep people from being ejected out of the vehicle. Vehicles are made today so that there is a safety component where the design is that the passengers remain within that. If they're not buckled up, then they can be ejected out and into further danger.
Right. And is there some kind of maybe safety restraint within a seatbelt itself? I know sometimes seatbelts will lock into place. If you slam on your brakes hard, I don't know if that's speed related or not. But
that depends on the type of retractor and the retracting system. Some are very, very sensitive. Like you said, you tap on the brake and you feel that tug and that pull. Others, it takes the whole vehicle to stop in order for that to engage. Many, many times it'll take a push against the seatbelt to engage that retractor. And that's why putting it behind you is dangerous, because if that seatbelt doesn't get the push, it doesn't allow for it to lock up, therefore rendering it useless.
Right. Okay, now in recent years, the state has enacted many new laws regarding safety concerns as it relates to drivers. Laws such as headlight usage in construction zones, headlight and windshield wiper usage during any kind of precipitation. But to eliminate some confusion, what does this law cover, and how did it come about?
Okay.
This new law, I guess, and I should go back and say referring to cell phone usage.
Okay, and that is absolutely brand new. It just took effect last week. It was enacted last week, and it will go into effect in March. But simply put, texting behind the wheel will be subject to primary enforcement, which allows the officer to pull somebody over specific to that reason alone. The fine is $50 plus costs and fees that are associated with that traffic stop. The other thing I do want to mention, that law is specific to cell phones, but there are many, many other distractions that will take the driver's attention away from the task of driving. iPods, GPS, radio, eating. The other passengers in the car, all take our concentration away from the driving task.
Right. And I think, is there something in place? I know I heard it referred to in the news somewhere about how many passengers a new driver or a driver of a certain age is allowed to have in the car at one given time now.
Yes. Prior to this, it was one passenger for every seatbelt that was in the vehicle. Now it's a new driver just is only allowed to have one passenger, unless they are direct family members.
Okay. And does a new driver constitute someone with a certain number of driving years experience or a certain age?
Up to the age of 18. After that, then they can apply and receive the full driver license.
Okay. Okay. Now, of course, we can't get away without speaking about drinking and driving, which we already mentioned a little bit about. So can we talk about what driving under the influence means and how it affects someone's ability to drive?
Certainly. DUI, driving under the influence, not just about alcohol. It can be about anything that can impair the driving in the form of drugs and including alcohol. Alcohol is the most common form, though, of a DUI. The alcohol affects the brain, and with the first drink, it goes right to the frontal lobe, where decision-making happens. So we want to make sure that everybody understands impairment begins with the first drink. The laws apply to everybody. There are the consequences associated with the DUI are a little bit different for somebody under the age of 17 or under the age of 18, but anybody under the age of 21, not only are they subject to a DUI, but they're also subject then to underage drinking as well.
Now, I think you did mention one thing that's important to realize. A lot of people, I think, have a misconception that DUI implies only to drinking while driving, but that can imply any kind of drug or alcohol use, which I'm sure, if it isn't already grouped under, it could involve things that are not your everyday drugs means of getting the high or whatever that you're looking for. So that's something important to keep in mind. Now, we are going to take a short look into some of that video footage from Elderton High School. Let's take a look at that. This event took place last May, and then we will be right back.
Thank you very much to the Elderton High School and the drivers there for putting on this program, which is a new program to me. So I'll be interested as I follow you around to see the different stations and how you react to the different stations. I'm the coroner for Armstrong County. I deal with death. I deal with death every day of the week. Most disappointing, of course, is accidental death. People who do not regard traffic safety. It's not always related to alcohol or drugs. It's also related to the new thing on the market, in a sense new, and that's driving while texting. Driving while driving under the influence of alcohol and or drugs. I want you to know that everyone here is here for your safety. Although I might be the first speaker, I want to be the last one to ever see any of you. So therefore, let's practice what we see today. Let's practice what we hear today. Driver safety. All the different stations are meaningful. Take advantage of every station.
I'm just not good at remote control. I told you! I wasn't crazy. Mine's not working. How do you back up?
All right, so what was it like wearing those goggles?
It makes everything feel like it's not where it's at. Like you reach for something and it's not there.
Okay. What was it like driving that car with them on? Was it harder?
Very hard.
What's it like wearing those goggles?
It's horrible.
Why is it horrible?
Because nothing's where it's at.
How do you mean? Is it all blurry or what?
It's blurry, it's disformed, it's a mess.
So can you imagine trying to drive a car if you were going to look like that?
No, I cannot.
Can you drive that remote control car like that?
No, I cannot.
Okay.
Today in Pennsylvania, there were about 350 crashes on our highways.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So what exercises were you trying to do over there? What was the...
Try to walk in a straight line. Very difficult, actually. And then I just had to raise my foot in the air, and that was also very difficult to try to keep my balance.
So what was it like wearing them? Was it like double vision or?
It was more like everything was distorted. Really couldn't distinguish between a straight line and not a straight line. So.
What was the BAC on those goggles?
.07 to .1.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, hold on, I gotta do this with my, okay.
Yes. You were there. Yeah, I was there.
On the road.
Drive better when you're driving. I've been doing
I'm like, oh, what am I saying?
Everybody wants to.
Oh, I'm not on the road. No, I'm going into a brick wall.
Well, there were some interesting sights and thoughts from a few of our high school students there. What are the most important things to remember while driving, especially for the newer drivers?
First and foremost, driving is a privilege. It's not a right. And every driver has a responsibility to help keep our roads safe. The other thing is learn to manage your time wisely. And many times we don't think of that in terms of safe driving, but the studies have shown that many teen crashes occur during the morning hours going to school and immediately after school, which indicates that teens are in a hurry to get to where they're going. So try to use your time wisely so as not to put yourself in a position where you're going to be tempted to drive or other careless driving behaviors. Try to limit the number of distractions that are in your vehicle, and again, always buckle up on every ride.
And one thing to keep in mind, just maybe my own little personal tidbit of advice there, is if you are running late for something, if it were me and my recommendation to you, it's better to be late than to not arrive there at all. So when you are looking at that and you're talking about being concerned about getting to a place quickly, maybe keep that in mind. And I know even in my personal experience, there's been a couple of accidents just outside of where I went to high school at in Indiana, and it nearly cost several teens their lives because of it, and it was just horsing around and being in a little bit of a hurry. So, now, are there programs that you or the university in particular offer to school districts that may be something similar to what was offered at Ellerton, or is maybe the same thing?
Absolutely. The Indiana Regional Highway Safety Project does offer help and assistance to schools and other community programs if they would like to do something to help increase awareness about driver issues.
Okay. Now, is there anything else that you wanted to add for maybe the benefit of our viewers?
I would say that for parents, just make sure that you use a lot of patience and understanding with your new driver, but still monitor their driving behaviors because they are new, and because they're your children, you do care. And just to extend that love and concern over their driving, and even though it might be interpreted as an infringement upon their driving rights, that you still are the parent involved, and you do need to make sure that there are that you are monitoring what they're doing while they're behind the wheel.
Right. And the first so many hours that a teen is driving have to be monitored by an adult or immediate guardian. So that's one way right there. I mean, you don't have to go with them on every trip, but when they're initially driving, that is to get their license, they must have that, right? So, okay, well, I really appreciate you coming down today to talk about this topic this evening. And that is our show for today. We're out of time. Our thanks go out to Miss Sandra Toy of IUP, who was kind enough to take time out of her busy schedule to be here with us today. And a special note to congratulate you on your upcoming retirement from IUP. Good luck with the next stage of your life.
Thank you very much.
That is, we were very thankful to have her down with us today. Our thanks also go out to the TV production students of Catanian High School, led by their teacher, Mr. Don Swanson. They were our film crew for today. DVD copies of this and all Education Today programming can be requested by contacting myself, Chris Garatano, the multimedia technician at Catanian Junior High School. Please join us again next week for another look at the Armstrong School District. Visit our website for updated information about the district, and have a great week.